Her attempt to force him off the vessel in view of all the guests backfired when he revealed a shocking truth that silenced the entire yacht. Have you experienced one of those evenings where everything appears perfectly arranged for triumph, only to suddenly turn upside down? This evening was meant to belong to Darius Whitfield. At 42, he ran a thriving technology firm based in Austin, Texas. From all appearances, his life was flourishing. Getting invited to gatherings like this one wasn't simple. Tonight held special significance. This wasn't merely any celebration. It represented the ultimate party, an elite yacht gathering thrown by one of the nation's most prominent venture capital companies, moored off San Diego's coastline. Darius exited the dark SUV and stepped onto the exclusive marina platform, straightening his charcoal suit sleeve. The outfit wasn't ostentatious, simply pristine and perfectly fitted. He possessed that serene self-assurance that develops from years of creating something from scratch. While the ocean breeze touched his face, he gazed upward at the vessel. 3 levels of absolute opulence illuminated beneath a star-filled sky. Discussions drifted down from the top deck. Merriment blended with the sound of clinking crystal. Momentarily, Darius permitted himself to breathe deeply. This represented his rightful place. When he presented his device to security for guest verification, one guard examined him extensively, studying his appearance as though uncertain of his belonging. Darius observed this but remained silent. Such looks were familiar territory. Eventually, the guard approved with a nod, offered a forced grin, and gestured him forward. Moving along the gleaming wooden PU, the aroma of bubbly and costly fragrances intensified. His leather shoes tapped against the deck as he stepped aboard. Several guests already socializing on the main level glanced his direction. Some offered courteous smiles, others didn't. Darius noticed various glances, quick and penetrating, like people evaluating him. He dismissed these and moved toward the bar for refreshment. The yacht's interior was breathtaking. Gentle white illumination bathed elegant contemporary furnishings. The gathering included CEOs, financiers, and socialites, faces from magazine covers, some he'd encountered across conference tables. A chamber ensemble performed near the steps while waitstaff navigated through guests carrying appetizer trays. The setting resembled a photo shoot. As Darius moved through the space, a navy-suited gentleman acknowledged him briefly. The type of recognition that suggested you're unfamiliar, but potentially significant. Darius returned the gesture and continued forward. He wasn't there to dazzle anyone. He had no need to validate himself. The evening focused on building connections, perhaps discovering the ideal investor for his upcoming venture. He approached the bar, requested sparkling water with citrus, and leaned comfortably against the surface. Behind him, laughter erupted from a small group near the barrier. A woman wearing a golden sequin gown caught his attention momentarily, then dismissed him as unworthy of consideration. Darius smiled slightly to himself. He recognized her type. The bartender delivered his beverage. Initial visit to this yacht, he inquired with friendly curiosity. Indeed, Darius responded, sampling his drink. Impressive arrangement. Annual events keep growing, the bartender mentioned before attending another customer. Darius pivoted, surveying the deck once more. Initially, everything appeared normal, an upscale gathering with people enjoying themselves. Then he detected something subtle. 2 women murmuring while glancing toward him. When their eyes connected with his, they quickly averted their gaze, feigning amusement at something else. He didn't dwell on it, but the atmosphere felt charged, unspoken tension hanging heavily. Checking his timepiece and noting the early hour, he decided to visit the second level, hoping to encounter someone familiar. Ascending the curved stairway, a couple passed him mid-discussion. The woman's eyes briefly swept over him, her mouth forming a tight line before returning to her partner. Darius continued upward, advising himself not to overanalyze. However, something about the yacht's energy felt wrong, and he was about to discover just how problematic it could become. The upper deck revealed a panoramic Pacific view. The evening remained peaceful, with moonlight dancing across the water like liquid silver. Darius paused, allowing the sea breeze to refresh him. Below, faint sounds of celebration and music mixed with the yacht's engine rumble. Most would consider such a night flawless. He searched for recognizable faces among the conversation clusters near the glass barrier, champagne glasses glinting in hands. He identified several individuals from professional profiles, though none he'd personally encountered. He began with simple introductions. Approaching a small gathering near the bar, a cream-blazed man shot him an overly long glance. Not welcoming or inviting, more like assessment. Darius offered a polite smile. The man didn't reciprocate. Instead, he shifted position, wordlessly blocking Darius's approach. Darius redirected, choosing to avoid awkwardness. He'd find alternative company. The pattern repeated. A black-dressed woman brushed past, her eyes flickering toward him momentarily before darting away uncertainly. He stopped at the upper bar and ordered another sparkling water. As the server prepared it, a man approached. Mid-50s, expensive timepiece, golf course tan. He quickly assessed Darius and smirked. "Are you staff?" the man asked casually, as though discussing whether. Darius turned slowly. "Pardon me." "Staff?" the man repeated, gesturing vaguely toward the bar. "Catering, security, something similar." Darius delayed his response, letting the words linger before replying, "No, I'm a guest." His tone remained calm but sharp. The man raised his eyebrows skeptically, chuckled softly, and shook his head. "Oh, my error." He returned to his drink, clearly unashamed. Darius exhaled through his nose, forcing jaw relaxation. One person wouldn't spoil his evening. But the whispers seemed amplified now. Or perhaps he'd become more aware. He caught two people looking his way, eyes shifting when he glanced back. He retrieved his phone, pretending to check messages while scanning for familiar faces. Finally, he spotted Anthony Kim, a venture capitalist from a previous video call months earlier. Anthony leaned against the railing with a laughing group. Darius felt relief and approached. "Anthony," Darius greeted, extending his hand. Anthony turned, his smile briefly wavering before returning. "Darius, unexpected seeing you here." "Yes," Darius replied with light laughter, ignoring the hesitation. "Received the invitation last week. Thought personal connection would be valuable." Anthony shook hands but didn't introduce him to the group. Others barely acknowledged his presence, eyes flicking to him then back to Anthony as though he weren't part of the discussion. Darius stood through several uncomfortable moments, then politely excused himself. Walking away, he sensed it, eyes following, voices low and sharp, seemingly discussing him. He couldn't distinguish words, but the tone was unmistakable. He leaned against the barrier, gazing at dark waters, letting cool wind clear his thoughts. The evening should have offered opportunity, so why did it feel like an examination? That unsettling atmosphere was about to worsen significantly. 20 minutes in, and Darius remained isolated on deck like an outsider at his own function. He reminded himself of his purpose, building connections, opening doors for his company's next phase. The atmosphere wasn't ideal, but he wouldn't depart over awkward glances and one clueless individual with a golf tan. He finished his beverage and returned toward the staircase. Perhaps the lower deck would prove better. He'd locate the host, exchange pleasantries, and proceed. Halfway down, he noticed her, the hostess. Slender build, sleek ponytail, white silk jumpsuit radiating authority wordlessly. She surveyed the crowd, sharp eyes capturing every detail like she controlled every yacht inch, which she technically did. Brooke Spencer, prominent in event coordination, especially for wealthy circles. Darius had seen her name on the email invitation. He was about to continue when her gaze locked onto him. Not casual or curious. The look given when something feels amiss. Her steps were rapid, heels clicking like a metronome against polished flooring as she closed their distance. "Excuse me," she said, voice crisp, not warm. Darius turned, maintaining calm expression. "Yes." She stopped within a foot, arms crossed lightly but firmly enough to establish her authority. "Can I assist you with something?" Darius blinked, slightly surprised. "No, I'm fine. Just seeking the host." Her eyes narrowed, examining him head to toe like he confessed to sneaking aboard. "The host?" "Yes." He gave her an easy smile. I have an invitation. Thought I'd say hello. She tilted her head, lips curling into something resembling a smile. An invitation? Correct, Darius said evenly. She didn't move or blink, just stared as though giving him one final chance to admit he didn't belong. Then she declared, Look, I'm unsure who permitted your entry, but this area is for guests exclusively. Darius maintained composure. I'm a guest. Her eyebrows shot up skeptically. Really? She stepped closer, lowering her voice with a sharp edge. Listen, this is a private function. If you're with catering or security, that's acceptable, but you can't simply loiter like this. People are beginning to notice. Something in Darius snapped. Just a flicker, but he controlled it. I'm not working for anyone. I was invited. Brooke crossed her arms tighter, as though his calm response irritated her further. By whom? By those who sent invitations, Darius said firmly. Now, check your roster. This struck her like a challenge, jaw clenching. What's your name? Darius Whitfield. She pulled out her phone, thumbs flying across the screen. Moments later, she looked up, eyes scanning him again skeptically. And you claim you were invited? That's precisely what I'm stating, Darius replied, tone steady but sharp enough to cut through her doubt. Behind her, several guests had turned to observe. Whispers rippled through the air, soft but pointed. A gray-suited man chuckled quietly, as though he'd already written this drama's ending. Brooke noticed the attention too, and instead of retreating, she intensified. Look, she said, voice louder now. I don't want to create a scene, but without proper credentials, I must ask you to leave immediately. Darius stared at her for a long moment. He felt heat rising, not from anger, but from humiliation pressing from all sides, watching people, whispers, unspoken assumptions dripping from every glance. His hand tightened around his glass, then released. He wouldn't lose control. Not here, not before them. I'm telling you, he said slowly, I belong here. She smirked as though that was the evening's funniest statement. That's when the first phone camera appeared, red light blinking. This wasn't merely a misunderstanding anymore. It was becoming a spectacle. The transformation happened rapidly. One moment, just Darius and Brooke standing apart. The next, half the deck seemed tuned in, pretending not to watch while leaning enough to catch every word. That little red light from someone's camera blinked like a warning in his peripheral vision. Brooke, noticing the attention, straightened her posture. Her voice carried now, pitched to sound authoritative to the crowd. Sir, you must tell me who authorized your presence. If you cannot, I'll have security escort you from this yacht. The words landed heavily, like a non-physical punch that hit just the same. Escort you off? Before all these people who already viewed him as not belonging. Darius felt every gaze burning into his back. He inhaled slowly and steadily. You don't need to do all that, he said, tone controlled. I told you I have an invitation. Check your list. Brooke interrupted with a sharp laugh like breaking glass. You think I don't know who's on my guest roster? She glanced at the crowd, ensuring they heard. Believe me, I would remember your name. That did it. The murmurs started quietly, then louder as whispers spread like wildfire. Someone muttered, What's happening? Another voice responded, I think is not supposed to be here. The gray-suited man from earlier chuckled again, shaking his head like this was premium entertainment. He wasn't even concealing it now. Darius felt heat crawling up his neck. He despised this feeling, the weight of being diminished, of being doubted. The worst part, this wasn't new. Different setting, same script. He said evenly, I'm not trying to create problems, but you're making an error. Oh, I'm making an error. Brooke stepped closer, one manicured finger pointing at his chest, careful not to touch but close enough to sting. You walk onto my event, dressed like that, no badge, no credentials, and expect me to simply take your word? Not happening. That line, dressed like that, hit harder than expected. He wore a tailored suit costing more than most people's rent. Yet somehow, in her eyes, he still didn't measure up. He could hear phones clicking now. A woman near the railing whispered, Is he staff or something? Another guy said, No, security probably missed him. Darius clenched his jaw. He'd maintained calm long enough. First of all, he said, voice carrying more weight now, don't address me like I'm some random who wandered in from a street. You want credentials? Fine. Call whoever you need. But stop trying to embarrass me before your guests. That earned a small gasp from someone in back, as though they hadn't expected his pushback. Brooke just laughed again, louder this time, performing for the audience. Oh wow. You know what? I don't have time for this. She waved toward the staircase. Security. That's when the guard from earlier, the same one who'd checked his name, started approaching. Large guy, linebacker build, blank expression. Darius felt something harden inside him. Enough was enough. Before Brooke could speak again, he spoke, his voice cutting through chatter like a blade. You really don't know who I am, do you? The deck went silent. Even the downstairs music seemed to dim momentarily. Brooke froze mid-step, her smugness faltering briefly. Excuse me, she said, voice losing its edge for the first time. Darius turned slightly so his voice carried, not shouting, just firm, like a man with nothing left to prove. My name, he said slowly, is Darius Whitfield, CEO of Whitfield Dynamics, the company that just signed a $50 million contract with your main sponsor. The silence that followed wasn't quiet. It was heavy, thick, like the air itself had weight. The laughter stopped. The whispers died. Every eye that had looked at him like he didn't belong was now focused on him with something else. Shock, recognition, and perhaps fear. Brooke blinked, lips parting, but no sound emerged. For the first time all evening, she appeared uncertain. Then, just like that, panic set in. The weight of Darius's words sank in like an anchor. Conversation stopped cold. Every glass clink, every polite laugh vanished into the night air, leaving only the yacht's engine hum and the quiet rhythm of waves against the hull. Brooke's face went pale. Her confidence, the smug, icy control she'd possessed moments ago, crumbled instantly. Her mouth opened as if to speak, but nothing came out. She swallowed hard, eyes darting to guests who were now whispering furiously among themselves. Whitfield Dynamics, a man murmured from the side, tone low but carrying enough to be heard. Heads turned. Someone else whispered, that's the AI company, right? The one in every tech publication. Another voice added, they're dominating predictive systems, top 5 nationally. Then the real impact. Wait, didn't they just secure that massive contract with Alton Ventures? Alton Ventures. The name floated above the crowd like an invisible spotlight because everyone present understood its significance. The yacht they stood on, the extravagant 3T party vessel, was funded and hosted by Alton Ventures. The event wasn't just for display. It was their annual investor celebration. The firm whose logo appeared on every cocktail napkin and champagne flute had just contracted with Darius's company. This wasn't a minor detail. This was the crucial detail. Brooke understood this too. Her lips twitched, struggling to form a smile that wouldn't come. Mr. Whitfield, she began, voice suddenly sweet, almost syrupy, dripping with panic. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Darius didn't move, didn't break eye contact. His calm was surgical now. You think? The security guard stopped mid-step, uncertainty flashing in his eyes. He looked between Brooke and Darius like he'd walked into the wrong room during a live broadcast. Brooke laughed nervously, a hollow sound that didn't reach her eyes. Oh my goodness, this is so embarrassing. I thought someone mentioned. What did they mention? Darius interrupted, tone sharp enough to make several people flinch. She hesitated, biting her lip. The truth sat in her throat like a stone, heavy and choking, but she couldn't voice it. Not he. Not with a dozen cameras now aimed at her. Anthony, the VC Darius had greeted earlier, finally stepped forward, voice low and diplomatic. Brooke, maybe check the list again. I'm sure Mr. Whitfield is. Don't bother, Darius said, voice steady. She doesn't need a list. She made up her mind the moment she saw me. That landed like a bomb. People shifted uncomfortably, eyes dropping to the polished floor because everyone knew what he meant. They'd witnessed it. They'd felt the tension too. Brooke stammered. No, that's not. I didn't. You didn't what? Darius asked, stepping closer now, his presence filling the space without raising his voice. Didn't assume? Didn't treat me like I wasn't worth being here? Didn't embarrass me before your guests? Brooke's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. I made a mistake. Yes, Darius said, tone quiet but carrying like thunder. You did. Phones clicked. Red lights blinked. This wasn't just an awkward moment anymore. It was a headline waiting to happen. Anthony cleared his throat, attempting to salvage the evening. Darius, let's get you a drink. I'll introduce you to the board members. Brooke will. Darius raised his hand, silencing him without even looking his way. I'm good, he said, eyes still locked on Brooke. But you're going to remember this. The tension was a living entity now, crawling through every corner of the deck. Brooke nodded quickly, her smile brittle, sweat beading at her hairline. Of course. Then from the back, someone clapped, slow, sarcastic. A gray-suited man, the same one who'd smirked earlier, now looked amused beyond belief. Well, he said loud enough for everyone to hear. That was dramatic. A ripple of nervous laughter followed, weak and awkward, like people didn't know whether to laugh or flee. Darius turned to him, eyes cold but calm. You think this is amusing? Gray suit shrugged, raising his glass. Just saying. Welcome to high society. We like to keep things interesting. Darius didn't respond. He didn't need to. His silence was louder than any comeback. But this wasn't over. The real fallout was just beginning. And Brooke, she was about to learn what consequences taste like. The party didn't recover after that. You could sense it. The shift. Conversations turned rigid, forced, like air escaping from a balloon. No one wanted to admit what was deflating. The music continued playing downstairs, but it sounded hollow now, like background noise for a scene gone wrong. Brooke stood frozen for several beats too long before finally snapping into damage control mode. She plastered on a smile so tight it looked painful and stepped toward Darius, her tone suddenly drenched in artificial sweetness. Mr. Whitfield, I truly apologize, she stammered, voice almost trembling. I should have recognized your name immediately. Please, let me make this right. We can. Darius didn't move, didn't blink. His stillness was louder than any outburst. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, but that calm was the kind that made people lean in because they knew it carried weight. Make it right, he repeated. How do you make something like this right? Brooke. Her eyes darted around, searching for an ally in the crowd, but no one stepped in. They were all watching, silent, waiting to see how this played out. I didn't mean to offend you, she said weakly, fingers twisting together. This isn't who I am. Darius tilted his head slightly, expression unreadable. Really? Because it looked pretty natural to me. A murmur rolled through the deck like a low wave. Phones were still out. Some guests tried to look casual, pretending they weren't recording, but everyone knew these clips were going straight to social media. This wasn't staying on that yacht. By morning, it would be trending. Anthony stepped forward again, diplomatic smile stretched thin. Darius, Brooke's admitting she made a mistake. Maybe we can just. Anthony, Darius said without looking at him. You've known me long enough to know I don't do polite cover-ups. Anthony's smile collapsed into a sigh as he stepped back. Brooke's voice cracked now. Please, Mr. Whitfield. I can lose everything over this. This is my career, my reputation. Darius let out a short laugh. Not cruel, just bitter. You're worried about your reputation now? Where was that when you were humiliating me before your guests? She flinched like the words slapped her. I didn't know. That's the problem, Darius cut in, voice rising just enough to carry across the deck. You didn't know. You didn't ask. You just decided. And that's what people like me deal with every single day. Silence fell again, heavier this time. You could almost hear the guilt settling on half the crowd's shoulders. They'd seen it. They'd judged him too. Darius took a breath, steadying himself. Then he stepped back, voice lower now but sharper than ever. You don't get to walk up to someone, strip them of their dignity, and call it a misunderstanding when it blows up in your face. Brooke's hands trembled at her sides. Her perfect hostess image was gone, shredded before the same people she'd worked years to impress. Anthony tried one last time. "Darius, maybe we can." "No," Darius said simply. "I'm done here." He turned and started walking toward the staircase. Head swiveled, following his every move. No one stopped him. No one dared. As he reached the railing, he paused and glanced back. Not at Brooke, not at Anthony, but at everyone. His eyes swept the crowd like a mirror, forcing them to see themselves. "You all talk about leadership, innovation, vision," he said slowly. "But tonight, I saw the same old thing. Judgment before truth, assumptions before facts. If this is what high society looks like, you can keep it." With that, he walked down the stairs, his steps echoing against the polished wood. The cameras followed him until he disappeared below deck. Brooke stood frozen, her face a mask of panic and humiliation. Around her, the whispers started again. Not about Darius now, but about her. Someone muttered, "She's finished." Another guest shook their head, saying, "That video is going viral." And they were right. By tomorrow, Brooke Spencer wasn't going to be known for throwing flawless yacht parties. She was going to be known as the hostess who tried to throw out the wrong man. The man her client had just invested millions in. But for Darius, this wasn't about going viral. It was about something bigger, a truth he'd been living with for years. And tonight, the world was finally going to hear it. The main deck felt heavier with every step Darius took toward the exit. The yacht lights glowed blurred against the water as the noise behind him faded into hushed whispers. He passed the bartender, who gave him a look that wasn't pity or judgment, just quiet understanding. Darius nodded once and kept moving. At the gangway's base, the salty breeze hit him again, cooling the heat that had been building in his chest all night. He paused, staring out at the endless black ocean before pulling out his phone. Notifications were already stacking up. Someone had posted the video. 2,000 views in 10 minutes. He could imagine the caption, "CEO humiliated at exclusive yacht party." Then this happened. He sighed. It wasn't the attention he wanted, but maybe it was the attention the world needed. "Mr. Whitfield," a voice called from behind him. He turned slowly. It was Anthony jogging down the steps, slightly out of breath. "Listen," Anthony said, hands up like he was approaching a ticking bomb. "That was rough. Brooke's finished after this, but if you stay, we can still turn this around. I'll introduce you to the board. We'll smooth it over." Darius shook his head. "Anthony, you don't get it." "Then help me get it," Anthony pleaded. "You know how these circles work. One headline like this, and everyone spins it their own way." "That's the problem," Darius said quietly. He stepped closer, voice low but firm. "You all spin it. You make it about optics, not reality. About saving face, not fixing what's broken." He let that hang for a moment before continuing. "This wasn't just a misunderstanding, Anthony. It's a mirror, and the truth staring back at all of you is ugly." Anthony didn't argue. For once, he didn't have a pitch, a plan, or a smile to hide behind. He just nodded slowly, like he understood, even if he didn't know what to do with it. Darius slipped his phone into his pocket and looked out at the water one more time. "I built everything I have by staying focused, by working harder than everyone else in the room. But nights like this remind me, the higher you climb, the more some people think they have the right to pull you down." He turned back to Anthony. "Not because of what you've done, but because of who they think you are." Anthony's throat bobbed as he swallowed. "You leaving for good?" Darius nodded once. "Yeah, if someone wants to do business with me, they know where to find me. But I don't need this stage to prove my worth." And with that, he walked down the dock, each step steady, deliberate. Behind him, the lights of the yacht shimmered like a hollow promise fading in the distance. The truth is simple. Respect should never be earned by a title. It should be the starting point. Don't let assumptions write someone else's story before they even speak. We all like to believe we're better than that. But tonight's scene, it happens every day in boardrooms, offices, and even casual spaces. The lesson: slow down, check yourself. Give people the dignity they deserve before you decide who they are. If you believe in that, if you believe everyone deserves that baseline respect, share this story. Talk about it. Because silence, that's how this cycle keeps continuing.